Welcome back to the My Inner Struggle podcast. I'm your host, Laura Ferry. Today, I'm sitting down with someone whose work speaks directly to the heart of anyone navigating life's hardest transitions: separation, divorce, and the mental and emotional spiral that often comes with it. My guest, Anne Utterback, is an author and coach who helps women retrain their thinking, reclaim their peace, and reconnect with God in the middle of uncertainty. Through her books, Retrain Your Brain, Make God the Conductor of Your Train of Thoughts, and Separated, Not Divorced, My Husband Moved Out, Now What? Anne offers guidance for the moments when your mind feels loud, your heart feels heavy, and you're trying to find your footing again. In today's conversation, we're talking about negative thought patterns, the shame we hide in the what ifs that keeps us stuck, and how faith can become an anchor when everything around you feels unsteady. Anne shares her own journey of losing her zeal for life and the beautiful process of getting it back. If you're in a season of transition or you've ever felt overwhelmed by your own thoughts, this episode is for you. So when you're ready, grab a cup of coffee and come get uncomfortable with me. Hi, Anne. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Do you want to, why don't we start by you just telling us and, the audience, everyone that's listening, about what it is you do?
Thanks. So I've written a couple books and then I got my certification for Kingdom Life Coaching. And so now I coach women who pretty much the person I needed years ago when I was going through the struggles.
So what does Kingdom Life Coaching mean as opposed to just a normal kind of coaching?
Kingdom Life Coaching is we focus on 3 areas: your health, your wealth, and your relationships. And then we all align it with God. So it's scripture based, all about, how do you align what you're doing with what God wants you to do, so that way you're on the right path in all areas of your life.
Okay. What moment or experience, obviously this is personal growth journeys mostly, but
Yes.
what moment or experience made you realize you needed to retrain your thinking and head in this direction, if you don't mind sharing?
Oh, no, not at all. I'd love to. So years ago, I felt God called me to write a book, and I was like, "What does that look like?" And so I started writing, and I have a math degree. So writing is not like natural for me. It's like a
Okay.
push. So I'm like, "Okay, great, thanks." And so I kept writing a story, and then it wouldn't go anywhere. I kept redoing it, and finally one night I was writing about my crazy train of thought. And I just
Okay.
started writing it down, and I got so frustrated. I was like, "Really? Like, this is like the 5th iteration of this book, like, I'm done." And
Uh-huh.
so I went to bed, and God said, "Yo, I just gave you your book. Like, get up." And so he just showed me how I derail all day long because of my thinking.
Uh-huh.
And so that's what got me into the first book of like, how do I attach my thinking with my heart and with my actions? Because so many times your thinking takes you out of like the people around you.
I can definitely resonate with that. But someone that's listening, what does that actually look like? Can you walk me through, because it's hard.
Mhm.
I find that right now in the spot where I am, because I did have my own spiritual awakening while I was writing my book, and it's in my book. But it's really hard to describe. Are you able to describe it? Like what that means? Like when you get stuck in this train of thoughts and what gets you out of that? What kind of actions do you take, or what do you do for yourself to get out of that space?
The the first thing is what I realized I had to do was actually be aware of what I was thinking.
Mhm.
Because so many times, especially with like my job, I was an admin. A lot of stuff I do is like methodical, kind of mundane things. When you're a
Mhm.
mom, you're doing laundry. And so your brain is just clicking. And so many times we don't even realize what we're thinking about. Like when we
Mhm.
overthink, we create conversations and we go over and over it. We create a new scenario. We fantasize about things. I mean, we just go. And so once I started realizing how my thoughts just went awry, I started to connect with like just pausing and going, what am I thinking? And why am I thinking that? Because all of a sudden I would get emotional. And it was like, wow, like I would go into depression. I would go into grief modes because I was back here thinking of like the past things that had happened, like being hurt, being sexually abused. I would go back and those things would just be in the back of my head. And then all of a sudden I was distant. I was emotionally unattached to my children and my husband and all of that chaos. And so once God showed me, like, connect your heart and your mind, connect what you're thinking to keep you present.
And how did you connect that? Was there a physical attribute to it? Like, did you journal? Did you start movement, like, exercising,
Right.
walking, or something like that? Like, what was it that got you, like, what was your go-to thing to get you out of that space?
Definitely physical movement helps a ton in getting outside. Getting
Yes.
outside and just moving and changing your environment. And then I also realized I would automatically put my headphones in when I'd go outside and then the music. But then once again, once that music started playing, my brain, I wouldn't connect. So I had to pull them out and connect to nature. It's like, be aware of like what's going on around you. And so pause and like look around, breathe the smells, touch the things, like if you're in a store and you start derailing, like touch something, like breathe in and look around and be like, where am I? What am I doing? And reconnect to your present, to
Okay.
your physical presence. Like, where are you?
So you are in Texas.
Mhm.
So when you get outside, what is it like outside? Are you in the city? Are you, out in the country? What does it look like?
I just recently moved. And so we actually have some trails right by my house. So I have a dog. And so my dog and we do the trails. And so it's very hot. It's still 80 degrees. It's November.
Mhm.
And so it's still warm. So we have to be careful as to when we go out.
Mhm.
And there's rabbits, there's lizards. And so again, because I'm being aware and I'm looking around that, I mean, I don't think I've noticed a smell yet, because we've always got plants and stuff,
Mhm.
but it can be muggy, like it's supposed to rain. So it's going to be, if I go outside, it's going to be like a warm blanket is covering me.
Okay. Yes. Yeah.
Those wet, moist blankets.
Yes. Not my favorite, I'll admit. Yeah. So what is the title of that first book that you wrote?
It is retrain your brain, make God the conductor of your train of thoughts.
Okay. And that book led you into others then. Do you wanna tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so, interesting, in August of 22, my husband just moved out. We'd been married for 22 years, and I came home from a business trip, and he had moved out. I had no idea, completely unaware. I was like,
No
"Oh,
conversation beforehand, no.
nothing."
Okay.
Actually, he was texting and talking to me while I was on my trip as if
Okay.
nothing was happening.
Okay.
Just uh-huh. And so through that, it was so fascinating because the first few months, God kept saying, "Go back and read your first book. Go back and read get your thinking in the right space." And because I wrote that book, I was able to navigate the separation, I think, as well as I did.
Mhm.
But that led me to write My Husband Separated, Not Divorced, My Husband Moved Out, Now What? And so that one is just simple, like practical tips as to what you do, how you navigate a separation. And to be honest, I was so bent on us staying married that I couldn't see any other path. And so
Mhm.
that book is prior to that. So it doesn't guide you one way or the other. It's literally like, what do you do?
So were you able to get some answers that you needed?
Yes.
Okay.
So one day, it's probably about 8 months we'd been separated, he was living in another place, and we weren't communicating well, it was chaos, it was just, as you can imagine,
Mhm.
and we were on the phone, and he was like, I'm done," and I went, "Okay, like, what does that mean?" And I said, "Where are you? We need to see each other. Like, we need to look at each other face to face.
Mhm.
This isn't happening over the phone." And so he was at the 7-Eleven. And I said, "Great, I'll be right there." So I pulled up and I walked up and I said, "If you look at me right now and say, 'I don't love you, F you,' I will grant you a divorce and walk away." And it was in that moment that I felt like God just said, "Just give it to me." Like, I finally released the outcome.
Right, just surrender to whatever it
Yes.
is, let go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so from that, he finally agreed to marriage counseling. So we did marriage counseling for a year. We went through you just churn up all the junk and everything else. And so I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, it's been almost 2 years since we had separated. It's like, okay, now what? And he didn't want to move back in.
Okay.
He just was like, yeah, I'm just not ready. And I was going, well, here's the thing.
Right.
I said, I'm going to need some time to think about that. And so I sat with God for 40 days and 40 nights. And I was like, what do I do? And I had gone to our counselor by myself. And I just looked at her. I'm like, what do I do? Like, I don't know what to do. I thought we did all the things. And she just simply handed me a piece of paper and she says, I think you should read this. And it was all about biblical divorce. And I was like,
Okay.
wow. So this woman who's been sitting with us for a year is handing me a piece of paper on divorce. So I was like,
Okay.
I'm gonna take that into consideration. So I took that. I sat with God for 40 days, 40 nights. And afterwards, he just simply said, I give you permission. He didn't say what to do. He just said, I give you permission. And so I sat on that. I told my husband, all of it is very truthful with him. But I tell you what, at that point, Laura, like my eyes were open to reality more than they'd ever been. I started to put up boundaries, healthy boundaries, things that I hadn't done, that I hadn't realized that I wasn't doing, and really started to live wholly for me in the right way, in a healthy way.
Mhm.
And from there, everything just started to become clearer and clearer and clearer. And then things just didn't, I mean, there was like, I couldn't even have a conversation with him. And it was just kinda like, I realized it's like, this isn't a marriage. This isn't,
Right.
there's no effort.
Right. Well, and the effort is the biggest thing because and that's in any type of relationship. If
Oh,
you don't
yeah.
have a reciprocal effort in that, you can't really move forward together. It's always one person kind of putting more in. But I guess, and well, I can relate to that too in so many ways, but it sucks that we have to go through that in order to get to the other side. And I'm sure that wasn't easy by any means. What did it mean when you said that you sat with God for 40 days and 40 nights? What does that mean exactly?
And I talk about this in my book. The first thing I did when my husband walked out the door is I literally went in my kitchen and poured out all the alcohol.
Okay.
And I don't have a drinking problem, but it's a distraction. And I won't have the right kind of thinking. I ate clean for 30 days. I did the Whole30 diet and then like we talked about, I forced myself to get outside every single day and walk, get in nature. And so I just redid that during that time. It's like clean it up, make sure my thinking was clear and make sure that I was truly aligned with what God was calling me to do. And I finally started to realize the importance of getting up first thing in the morning and spending time with God. Depending on your season of life, things get going or, you oversleep, because you got to get to work. And so you don't have your time or you just listen to your Bible app, or a podcast on the way. It varies throughout your life. But it was the first time I was like, no, I have to just stop and sit and read scripture, even if it doesn't make sense, even if I don't hear from God, I have to just sit in that. And then a lot of worship music, even when it's the worship songs, and I'm like, okay, I really don't want to
Not
hear this
really.
right now.
Not really in the mood right now. Yeah.
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 Uh-huh.
How old were your children at the time that this was all happening?
When he moved out, our older son was still living at home. He was 20,
Okay.
and then the younger one had just started his junior year in high school. After about 6 months, the older one, because they work with their dad, because he has businesses, so they work with him, and so the older one actually moved in with him out at the condo, and then the younger one stayed with me because he was still going to high school.
So it kind of is in this awful space, right? You're separated, you don't know what's going to happen. And for anybody that's going through that now and they're feeling it, and that's why it's so important for us to talk about it because nobody likes to talk about it because it's uncomfortable. But we're here to use our voice and to make others feel less alone when they're going through their own battles. There are so many other factors and pressures involved when all of this is happening. Because obviously, for one, you're separating into two households. So financially, that is a strain, right? You're not really sure where you stand in your relationship, and that kind of may hold a lot of your confidence. The finances holds a lot of our confidence. I know when I was getting divorced, when I was separated, when I was getting divorced, and even beyond that, in every new season, right? I'm worried that, like, what if my kids don't love me? I mean, I know that sounds so silly, but those thoughts occur to you, right? What if I'm not the fun one? What if they love him more? What if and it sounds so silly, but you're just insecure about every little minute detail around you that it feels like you could so easily spiral, right? And so pouring out the alcohol, that was a really good thing. I wrote a book too. I published it earlier this year and it's called Is It an Open Bar? And really it's everything. It's from, childhood trauma through present, but how we can use alcohol or any of those other addictions or coping as a coping mechanism to get through all of those things. So I also gave up drinking during different periods of my own personal growth. And I literally gave away all of my alcohol last year. It was taking up real estate in my cabinets, and I'm like, "I'm not drinking it." So I literally gave it away. Not to say that I wouldn't have a glass of wine with a nice dinner with a friend or something like that, but when he moved out, and then after we got I think I was definitely drinking, but after a period of time, I made it a rule, like, I'm not gonna drink alone, I'll only drink socially when I'm with friends. So that is something that I definitely resonate with because that's such a slippery slope. It can change so quickly that you're using this as this coping mechanism, which is unhealthy, obviously, but yes, it's a distraction. And when you go through all of these crappy feelings without distraction, I think you get to your destination maybe a little bit faster.
Mhm.
I'm a slow grower. I know that for myself. It's taken me a long time to get to terms to some of those things. Like you were saying, you were separated for so long, and it wasn't even until after you got handed that piece of paper that you started setting those healthy boundaries for yourself. Whereas, I think about that and I'm like, man, I could have spent that whole time like building these boundaries, but it didn't happen that way, and that's okay. But I think that's something I still need to work on myself is that I'm judging my slow growth, but it's okay. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter how slow or fast you are at that. It just matters that you start, take a baby step in some direction for yourself. Somebody that's going through something right now, they're listening to this and they're resonating, or they just separated or they're in the thick of a divorce right now or something like that. What's one thing that you would tell them? Like, what's the number one thing that you would tell them that would make a difference?
The thing that, it was when this first happened, it was in August, and then in the following January, we do a week of prayer and fasting. I used to work for a church, and during that time, see, I hadn't really told people because I was hiding in shame.
Mhm.
You're embarrassed because, like you said, your identity is in your marriage, it's in your kids, it's in your, especially as women, how we look, how we present ourselves, and so I was so embarrassed. And I was afraid of judgment. But during that week of prayer, God said, "You are dearly loved. Stop hiding, and you're going to be all right." And so that's what I would tell people. It's like, you are dearly loved. Stop hiding and you're going to be all right. And that's the thing with like the alcohol or food or television, whatever your mechanism is for coping or distraction, is stop hiding in that.
Mhm.
Get rid of that because, I mean, you even said it. If you can allow yourself to truly sit and feel all of those yucky emotions, as hard as it is, you will get through it a little bit quicker. And then just like open your eyes to the reality. My first counselor, she just looked at me, she goes, "You have got to live in your reality." And it was like, oh, ouch. Right, and so it's like, what is the reality? Like, stop making excuses for their behavior and for your reaction.
Mhm. Yeah.
I
Because
thought,
it's not just one-sided,
"No,
right?
oh,
Yeah.
no. No." I've found out, like, how codependent I am because I'm a peacemaker, I'm a calm peacemaker. And so here I am thinking I'm bringing peace to the household when I wasn't.
Right.
That's on me. I can make that sound really great, like, "Oh, but I'm such a I'm just so loving and peaceful." And it's like, well, not if that
Right.
my peace is not bringing them peace.
Right. Well, and I was also a codependent fixer. I always wanted to
Mhm.
be the
Yeah.
fixer. And that is ingrained in me from childhood,
Mhm.
from my relationship with my mother and trying to fix it and trying to make everyone around me happy at my own sacrifice, which just brings resentment and all of that other crappiness to the surface. And actually, have you read Codependent No More by Melody Beattie? That's a really good one.
I'm not, but I am going through a codependent Christian workbook, recovery workbook for the second time.
Okay, good. So it was super duper insightful just knowing, being aware of that. And I read that a few years ago as I was exiting my relationship and I was like, "Whoa, this is crazy." Because here we are, these people, we have these relationships with these people that are asking for help and we don't know when to stop. We don't because we have no healthy boundaries at that point, right? So we will bend over backwards for in the wrong situations for the wrong people who aren't really ready to receive that either, that help, even though they think that they want the help because everyone, has their story. Everyone has their stuff. So that's really interesting. So as we wrap up this podcast, is there anything else that you would like people to know about where to find you, your books or anything like that?
You can find both of my books on Amazon. You can just put my name in, Anne Utterback, and the books will pop up. I'm currently writing my 3rd book, which I'm super excited about. It's about
Okay.
that big gulp moment, that moment of fully surrendering. So it
I
has
love
like a
it.
double play of like I was at the 7-Eleven and you get your big gulp. So I'm super
I like it. I like it.
thanks.
Yeah.
So I'm working on that, but I have my website is annutters.com and you can find my books on there too, as well as coaching. And I offer a free one-on-one consultation. 30 minutes of like just talk. Just what are you dealing with? What are you struggling with? Am I a fit to help coach you through things? Am I not? Because I know lots of other coaches that, may be better fit for
Mhm.
you, but
Right.
happy to help you start the process. Like, don't stop hiding. Like, just there are people out here who understand Laura here, she understands. We understand some of what you're going through, but every situation is different.
Mhm.
Everyone has their own story, their own piece to it. We all bring our own baggage. And so just don't sit in it alone. Find people because there are plenty of us out there that really do want to help to get you to the other side.
Yeah, I agree. That's beautifully said. It took years to find my tribe and I finally did and that feels really good and it didn't happen until I started using my voice and talking about it and stop hiding. Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much, Anne. This was awesome to talk to you. Good luck on your 3rd book and I look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining me and Anne today. I hope this conversation reminded you that even in the middle of uncertainty, heartbreak, or transition, your story is not over. There's clarity to be found, peace to rebuild, and a version of you on the other side who is stronger, wiser, and far more aligned. If Anne's message spoke to you, make sure to check out her books, Retrain Your Brain and Separated Not Divorced. You can also connect with her through the links in the show notes. And as always, if this episode had resonated with you, please take a moment to share it with someone who needs the encouragement today. Your shares, your messages, your support, they truly help this community grow. Make sure you're following the podcast so you don't miss next week's episode. And if you haven't yet, leave a rating or review. It means the world and helps this show reach even more people who need it. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And remember, you're allowed to grow, heal, and come back home to yourself. As always, I'm thinking of you and sending you love, and I will see you soon.